No doubt this is a tough time for a whole lot of people. Whether you know someone who's dealing with damage out west, worried about loved ones, or are just really sad about the destruction in the mountains, it can take a toll on you mentally. Here with us tonight is clinical psychologist Dr. David Gutterman with Cone Health LeBauer Behavioral Medicine. Dr. Gutterman, explain how an event like this can really play a role in someone's mental health.
Well, it's obviously very traumatic for anyone listening or hearing about the devastation that's taking place. But I think particularly for people in our area, this is in our backyard. It's so close to home, and so many of us know family, friends, and familiar people that live in the area. So it takes a much tougher toll because it's so very personal.
This might seem like an obvious answer to a question, but why is it that when we see others who are going through something so terrible, we are so affected by that?
Well, again, we tend to project ourselves in those types of situations, and so often these tragedies, they seem so, again, very far away geographically. This being so close, many people can relate to it, especially so many people who have visited the area. They've been to our mountains and they're seeing familiar places they've been to with their families that are just devastated, and that adds really to the trauma that everyone's experiencing.
I'm glad that you brought up, everybody has been to the mountains, one or the other. And I think that, seeing something like this happen to a really popular vacation spot, it can be difficult to process the shock of seeing these places once you've visited them. Now to see that they're gone, how do you process that?
Well, I think it's very difficult. It's going to take some time. I think that one of the most important things is for people to, again, focus on the resilience of people right now. I think, rather than focusing as much on the devastation, it's on the recovery efforts. And just like you on your station, you've been mentioning all the things that people can do to participate, be part of this process of helping our neighbors and rebuilding is so vitally important. And it just seeing this level of devastation makes you feel very powerless, and that will in turn help you feel like you're in fact doing something to contribute to the solution.
We've been learning about the dozens of people who have died following the storm. How can we all process and mourn those lives lost?
Well, this kind of loss it's so devastating, and it's the individual losses, right, that so many of us will be talking about, again, with friends and neighbors and relatives who've lost loved ones, but it's also the larger loss, really the loss of sense of security and safety. I mean, all of us were experiencing various minor levels of this, horrific storm as it went through, but of course they were hit so very hard. I think. But I think it'll be in the days and weeks from now to really begin to process what this loss means and how devastating it really is as it starts to unfold day by day, as we get more messages, more images from the area. I think people need to be prepared for that, because right now we're seeing some of the major devastation, but over the coming weeks, I'm sure we'll be seeing many more images, and we have to limit how much of that we're going to really expose ourselves to.
So what would you say is the best way to do that? How do you limit, or how do you process this as we continue to learn more and see more over the coming weeks?
Well, I mean, I think, again, we can limit the images just by, how much we expose ourselves to what we're watching. But I do think it is important to stay informed. And I think, as I was saying a few moments ago, I think one of the best ways to really to do that is to be focusing on recovery efforts. I think that is something that helps keep people energized and involved and really feeling like they are, because they are in fact making a difference. So the more involved we can stay, what's going on, stay in touch with, again, the news stations, faith communities are all coming together. And there are lots of different ways that we can be involved, whether contributing money, time, food, whatever it is that we can do, I think helps us feel much more a stronger sense of community.
All right, Dr. Gutterman, we are going to wrap up here for just a second. We're going to take a small commercial break, and we will be right back talking some more about this. So we'll be right back.